Hi everybody, it's Thursday and we're back in the Now You're Cooking kitchen and we're going to do some cooking. I have my brother Jonathan here with me today and it's always fun when we get together and cook, isn't it?
Always fun.
Always fun.
That's the story.
I want to make sure everybody knows that we are open on Memorial Day. This coming Monday we're going to be open 10 to 5, our regular hours. So come on in if you're passing through, heading home up the coast or down the coast or whatever, come on in and see us. Next week, Mike is going to be in the kitchen making cheesecake, so that's going to be really fun. And we are now masks optional for vaccinated people, so please feel free to come into the store without your masks if you're vaccinated. If you're not, we do prefer that you keep them on. We are also very happy to do curbside if you're not ready to face an unmasked public yet. So feel free to give us a call at 207-443-1402 for curbside, or send us an email at sales@acook'semporium.com and we'll be more than happy to help you out. So let's get started. Tonight we're making gnocchi. Mm-hmm. What are gnocchi?
They are a form of pasta made from potatoes and flour, and that's really all that goes into them.
That's amazing. Just potatoes and flour.
Yeah, there are a bunch of different varieties, like so many other sorts of pasta. Some of them are made with ricotta. There are a couple things, the aptly named Dunderi, which starts with a silent N, and Nudi, which starts with a silent G. So
those Italians.
Yeah, I know. Keep you guessing.
And there's enough liquid or moisture in the potatoes to make a dough from it.
Yeah, we've got a pound and a half potatoes that are boiling away here. We'll let those continue boiling while you make the sauce for them, and we'll be ready for them then, I think.
Excellent. So the sauce that we're going to make is, we're calling it summer garden pesto, because you can use all kinds of greens. Traditionally, it's basil, and we've got 4 cups of basil here we're going to put in, but you could use spinach, you can use kale. You want to make sure it's really finely chopped if you're doing that. You can use mustard greens, which are kind of hot and spicy, kind of any greens from your kitchen or from your garden, and you can also do a combination, which is fun. The other important ingredients are garlic. If you don't like really spicy garlic, you can roast it ahead of time. Parmesan cheese or dry aged Italian cheese like Reggiano, Asiago would be good. Nuts, traditionally it's pine nuts. I am using chopped walnuts tonight. You could also use pistachios, cashews, almonds, whatever you have on hand. So it's really pretty open to what you have growing in your garden and what you have available in your pantry. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it right in the food processor. And I grated my cheese already, but because I'm putting cheese and everything back in here, I didn't bother to wash it. And as we all know by now, if I don't have to wash it, I'm not going to wash it. John, you make it with a mortar and pestle.
I do. Some people say that's... I'm
just going to add these while he's talking. And the recipe is on, if it's not already on Facebook, it will be. It's on our website, and it will be available to you. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a couple different schools of thought. Certainly the food processor is the way to go if you're making a big batch of it. If I'm just doing it for one meal, I'll use the mortar and pestle. Some people think that you can get a little more flavor out of the basil by doing it that way. But opinions run strong in both directions.
So, and if you were using kale, I would definitely want to do it with a food processor because it's such a chewy, coarse
If you've ever tried it with the mortar and pestle, you find that the addition of the sequence of adding the ingredients actually makes a difference. The coarse salt is really good for helping to shred and mush up the leaves. Another thing that is really good is garlic scape pesto.
Ooh.
Good to see garlic scapes on the top of those garlic plants if you grow garlic shortly. And that's another one that you would want to definitely do in the food processor. They would be tough to get the right consistency in the mortar and pestle.
Yep. So I put in my garlic, I put in my salt and pepper, I put in my cheese and my nuts and about half of my basil, and I am going to pulse this, except that it's not on.
You're going to manually pulse it?
Okay, hi folks.
Is the switch off?
The switch is on. There we go. I'm going to pulse. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that the garlic like everything's kind of getting chopped up as we go along. So I don't want to do it just on, because it's really going to just cut the stuff on the bottom. And pulsing allows it to go up and down and kind of all get in there where the blade is. And that's pretty good. That's pretty coarse. If you want to see what that looks like. So it's fairly coarse. If you want it really super fine, you can do it super fine. I'm going to put the rest of my basil in. It smells so good. We just got this at Hannaford, by the way, and it comes with the root ball on it. And so we just took what we needed, put the root balls right into the water there, and you can take that right home and plant it if you don't already have basil plants going. You want to pinch the leaves. I think you want to just pinch the larger leaves, and then you can see where they're kind of sprouting, and those smaller leaves will keep growing. Do you have anything to add to that, John, or is that
Yeah, we grow it in pots at home and in the garden, and just pinch off leaves as you need them, and it doesn't harm the plant any. Usually where you pinch off, it splits and forms two different branches, so you get a more dense bush out of it.
Nice. So I put the rest of my basil in, and now I am going to turn it on while I drizzle in my olive oil. What I'm hoping will happen is the stuff that's already been pulsed will become fairly fine, but then there'll still be some bigger pieces of basil, because that's how I like it. If you want it just totally smooth, just turn it on and let her rip. So just drizzling this in, and you can see how it's mixing. And you could stop there and have a nice thick pesto, or you can keep going and have a little bit thinner one. This is a really nice olive oil. This is our Greek Ariston olive oil, which has really great flavor.
Ooh, that looks gorgeous.
Doesn't it look? Oh, and smell it. We need smell-o-vision, folks. So that's that. So what you can do with this, if this is more than what you need for your gnocchi or your pesto or your pasta, whatever you're making with it, you can freeze this in ice cube trays, and once they're frozen, put them into Ziploc bags, and then you can just pull out little bits as you need them. Or you can just put it into some kind of freezer-proof thing if you're going to need the whole amount of it. But it freezes beautifully. In the fridge, probably 5 days or so.
Yeah.
5 days or so. You do want to taste it, by the way, and see if you want a little bit more salt or pepper in it. But other than that, this is ready to go. And
pressure's on me.
Pressure's on you now.
There you
I'm
go.
done.
Alrighty. So we have boiled 1.5 pounds. That's after peeling weight of potatoes. I like to use russets. Different people sometimes prefer different ones. The making of gnocchi is really a lot about getting the right ratio of potatoes to flour, and it's about getting the right consistency. You're not adding any liquid, so all the moisture that you're going to work with is in these potatoes, so you don't want to overboil them. So prod them with a fork as soon as they're about done. You want to pull them out. So I'm going to drop these into the old-fashioned kitchen ricer. Everybody, including people that I know in Italy who make gnocchi, all swear that the ricer is the only way to go, and that's because the texture that you get off the potatoes coming out of it.
So, and if you do not have asbestos hands like my brother does, you can let your potatoes cool for a bit. Is that correct? Or do you need to, will that you lose too much moisture?
Yeah, you can let them cool for a bit. You don't want them to sit around too long.
Okay, so I take that back. Get asbestos hands.
Yeah, although asbestos, I think, is a controlled substance,
well,
so you probably don't want asbestos hands.
You know what I mean.
Cast iron.
Cast iron. Silicone.
There you go. You see how
That's
that relatively
beautiful.
small pile of potato is turned into a pretty big pile of potato?
But it's such a beautiful texture.
Yeah.
Vermicelli.
Yeah, again, using the ricer is really the only way to go for this. So, all right. So we're just going to take the fork and put the one off here.
Ding,
And
ding, ding.
we're just going to set this off to the side. So, 1.5 pounds potatoes, again, post-peeled weight. This is the flour, so it's 1.5 cups of flour. And you don't want to put it all in at once. Again, as I said before, it's all about getting the right consistency on this. And just like making handmade pasta, if you get too much flour in there and it gets too dry, too stiff, it's almost impossible to fix it. You can't just add water and get it back. So I'm going to try to keep back probably somewhere between a quarter and a half cup of this flour.
You can always add more, but you can't take it out.
Yeah, that's really the way it works. So keep a little bit like that there. So we're just going to take a fork and we're going to start by just tossing that through, and you can see.
You're just kind of tossing the potato.
Yeah. And really what you're trying to do is get it evenly mixed. Now you want to use all-purpose flour as opposed to bread flour in this. You don't want the gluten. Bread flour typically has a higher gluten content than all-purpose flour.
What about cake flour, which
cake
is very
flour
little.
would be fine. Most people don't have that lying around. And so that also applies when you knead a dough, you're developing the gluten. Again, we don't want to develop the gluten, so we don't want to overwork this. So I'd say that's just about right. It's kind of clumpy, a little bit of moisture in there. And we'll roll that out here.
Just a little tiny bit of flour on there.
Yeah, but it feels just about right.
So how
right.
often do you make pasta at home? Would
You know,
say?
it varies. Sometimes it's twice in a week, and sometimes it's twice in a month. So it really. So we're going to try to make sure it's thoroughly blended, evenly mixed, but not, again, kneading and developing the gluten too much here. So you kind of see what that's like. And you kind of see that it's still got the open texture from the ricer a little bit. So what we're going to do now is turn these into little snakes, roll them out to start forming the gnocchi. And essentially you want them to...
I can help.
Crumbly. Yeah, that would be super. So it takes a little shaping. You want to get it to about 3/4 of an inch in diameter.
And you need, it's kind of falling apart. You want to be really gentle with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to massage it a little bit to keep it going together.
Massage it. I can tell you've done this a lot more often than I have.
It's with almost everything like this, right?
Yeah.
It's doing it again.
Experience,
After
and
you've
learning
done it
from
5
your
times,
mistakes.
you're an expert, right?
Well, I don't know, 5 times. Oh, look at me go now.
Hmm?
Look at me go now.
You're going. All right. So,
overconfident there.
yeah, sometimes it takes a little finagling to get it just right. So I'm going to cut these into little 1-inch segments.
So I made these. I've made the gnocchi once, and I used a fork. And we're going to learn how to do that. But John was over for dinner that night that I made them, and the next day he brought me this, which he made out of cherry from your property.
Yep,
Yeah.
bunch of cherry scraps from our kitchen project.
We do carry these. We're going to show you how to use the gnocchi board and also how to use the fork to get the lines on it and make it look like gnocchi. We do carry these. We're out of stock at the moment, but if you want one, give us a call and we'll make sure when we get them and we'll put them on hold. But I've not ever used this before, so I'm excited
Well, there you go.
to...
So, little pieces like so. You want to try to make sure you get them all about the same size, too.
Pshaw.
And the reason for that is the cooking time is very short. We'll see in a minute, and you want them to all cook the
Evenly,
same in batches. Just get some of those there. So we're going to just put them onto this towel. So the trick is to have them soft enough so that you get the right texture and the
Don't show mine yet.
you get the
Focus
ridges.
on John.
And the ridges, like everything, they have a purpose. Really, it helps it hold on to the sauce in a way that just a round ball of dough would not.
So are you kind of like making a little like so and then rolling it back together?
You do get a little misshaping. There's actually two forms of pasta, cavatappi and malarettas, which are also made on a board like this. And they end up with a big squish in the side. Malarettas is also called Sardinian gnocchi, although it, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't have potatoes. It's really more just a
Probably they use sardines.
pasta thing. Exactly.
Look at that technique, folks. I'm a natural.
You are.
Natural something. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This looks so much better than the ones that I made.
That's because it's your second time.
Well,
third
and I
time.
didn't have my board at the time. Okay, that one doesn't look too good. See, I keep saying that, and then I get overconfident, and they look funky.
That's the way it always works, isn't it? Another
does.
hunk of this. Rolls out much faster when you have two people doing it. Maybe a good thing to do with the kiddos if you've got them at home.
Yeah, definitely. Teach the kids young how to make pasta and gnocchi, and they will know how to cook for the rest of their lives. Or anything. Teach them how to cook anything. But this is awesome, man. So what do you typically serve with this? So we had talked about doing a tomato sauce or a meat
Yep.
sauce or whatever. Do you serve a salad or do you serve some other veggies, or is this kind of the meal because it's all in one?
I always like a salad. In fact, some people joke about me eating a salad every night with dinner, but I just like the contrast of the crisp raw vegetable side of things with the acidity of a dressing with the rest of the meal.
Yeah.
Vegetables are always good. In terms of sauces, you're making the pesto here, or you've made the pesto. On the recipe, we listed several different typical sauces. One of my favorites, it's a little rich, is a blue cheese and cream sauce.
Especially, yeah.
Yeah. And what else? Actually, baked gnocchi is really good after you take them out of the boiling water, put them in a little casserole dish, pour a little tomato sauce over them, a little bit of mozzarella and maybe some herbs, and pop it into the oven. You don't really need to cook the gnocchi at that point because it's already cooked, so all you're really trying to do is heat it through and melt the cheese and stuff. That's pretty decadent.
Nice. That sounds amazing.
want another
So
one?
then, speaking of what you're going to serve with it, Joel picked out a couple of really nice wines for us tonight.
Yes.
One is the Steinitz Gruner Veltliner from Austria. It's has a great zesty herbal minerality, which goes really well with the garlic and basil. If you're doing a tomato sauce, you probably would choose other wines, but these are great for the pesto. And this is an exclusive wine for us. You're probably not going to find it anywhere else in Maine. It's $34.99, and it's just a really, really nice Gruner. The other one is the Vogler Sauvignon Blanc from Italy, and that is from the Alto Adige. We were discussing how you say that earlier. We're not Italian. But that wine, the Sauvignon Blanc, the vines are over 100 years old, so the old vines and the altitude of where they're grown make it really expressive and aromatic. Anybody who knows me knows those are not my words; those are Joel's words, but he knows his wine. So anyway, and that one is $27.99. They're both really nice wines. Before we finish up with this, can you show me how we do it with a fork and make them look almost as nice?
Well, you can almost as nice. We'll see about that. Just roll it down the back of the fork.
So you're kind of doing it the same way. You're just using the...
Yeah, and because
And they're a
the
little
texture of
wider.
the fork is a little different, you're getting deeper grooves, which will hold more of that lovely pesto.
So if you need forks for deeper grooves to hold the lovely pesto, we have forks as well as gnocchi boards.
Look at you.
I'm always selling.
You are always selling.
So these look so good. So now we have some water boiling, right?
Yep.
Are we going to keep it at a boil?
We are going to keep it at a boil. It will probably temporarily go off a boil when we drop a bunch of these in there. Why don't we finish up these last ones here?
Oh, those are plump. And what do we do with the board? Do we just let it dry and brush it off like you do with a pasta machine, a pasta roller?
Yeah.
Or do you wash it?
I would probably not wash it. You can wash it. I definitely wouldn't wash a pasta roller.
And the reason for that is with the pasta roller, with all the flour that's in it, when you get any kind of water or moisture in there, it just turns to cement, and it's really hard to clean it after that. So you just want to brush off the flour. It's just basically flour and dough in there, so that's why you don't want to do that. It's not gonna hurt anything.
All right.
To leave it there.
Are we ready for cooking?
I think so. I'm ready.
All right. So boiling water, and as with handmade pasta, usually there's no salt in it, so it gets its flavor really from the water. And so they say as salty as the sea. So usually I say at least a heaping teaspoon per quart of water, and I am not measuring these. But you can see I'm putting in an unconscionable amount of salt in there. I'll give that a...
But most of it is going to stay in the water. It's not like you're eating all of that salt.
Yep. Exactly. And so we're going to want to drop in probably about half of these. You don't want to do them all at once because they will clump all together and they'll take the water off the boil for too long. But we'll see what we can do with this.
Oh my God, that smells so good.
It does smell good. So I am going to very accurately dump in exactly half of these by number.
I learned everything I know about measuring from my brother.
There you go. And a couple more. There you go. Yeah, that should be about right. Those ones are sticking together a little bit. So we're going to let that separate those a little bit. Make it a little stuck together. So cooking time is basically about 10 seconds after they float to the surface. And we're going to put them directly into this bowl here, and when the first batch comes through, to keep them from sticking together, kind of like you might do with pasta, we're going to put a spoonful of the sauce in to just kind of coat them, and that oil will help preserve them from sticking. So they're starting to bob up to the surface now.
So it's a very quick cook. You don't want to dump them in and walk away.
Nope.
What happens when they're overcooked? Are they chewy and rubbery?
I think undercooked, they get kind of floury tasting. You haven't really cooked the flour in. Overcooked, I think they kind of peak and then they start getting mushy after that.
Which would make sense because there's not a ton of moisture in them. It's just the moisture from the potatoes. So the water probably works its way in. And
yeah, unlike a pasta, which if you do a homemade pasta, it gets tougher.
Right.
If you overcook it because it's all flour.
Already dry.
Here, you've got probably at least 50 to 60% of this is potato.
Okay. I think
so
we're
it's gonna
looking at
react
15 seconds here, and I'm getting scared.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, look at those. They're little pillows.
Yeah, and they swell up. That's another thing about making gnocchi or homemade pastas. Things get bigger when they cook. You compare the size of those. I do homemade lasagna sometimes, and I've carefully cut the sheets pre-cooking to match the size of the casserole dish that the lasagna is going to cook in. And then you pull them out of the boiling water before you assemble it and find that they're all 30% larger than when they went in.
Doesn't that look
Ooh, that does smell good. The warmth is kind of, oh yeah.
That looks so yummy. We're going to eat well tonight.
Indeed.
Cool. What else can you tell me about gnocchi? Anything?
Gnocchi, and some people would say that it predates pasta in some ways. There was an early form that was made in the area of Rome to Naples that was made from, I think it was millet flour that they raised before wheat was kind of
A thing.
and they used curdled milk with it to kind of bind
Interesting.
it together. And
So,
mix
which is
the
sort
things.
of like
So-
cheese. Curdled.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
Cheese is curdled milk with stuff in it to bind it.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably it for tonight. If you have any questions, you can always Facebook us or text us. I mean, not text us, sorry, email us, call us. We're happy to answer questions. Next week, we're doing cheesecake. Mike's going to do cheesecake. And we are open this coming Monday from 10 to 5, our usual hours. And I think that's it. And we're glad you joined us, and have a fabulous evening.
Thanks for coming.